Good morning. Thank you all. Wow, it's great to be back at the Neshoba County Fair. I got to tell you, last year I sure did miss y'all. I'm so proud to have Ely with me here today. Ely, wave your hand. I will tell you, we in Mississippi are lucky to have Ely as our First Lady. She's doing a fantastic job, not only working full-time, raising our family, but also serving the interests of Mississippians. And I'm proud to call her my partner. Ely, thank you for everything. You know, they say you don't really know or realize what you have until it's gone. I can tell you with certainty that that's just simply not true when it comes to the Neshoba County Fair. I realize exactly how much I missed this fair last year, how important it is to our great state, and how much we all wanted to be here. Now, let's be honest. It's been a hard, long year and a half since I was sworn in. And we have faced challenges that were never seen before. Dating back to 1972, the most federally declared disasters Mississippi has ever had in any one year is 4. Since I've been governor, we've had 13. But despite it all, Mississippi has stood strong. We sacrificed. We helped our fellow Mississippians in their time of need. We proved why Mississippi is called the hospitality state. And I want everybody here to know I have never been prouder to be a Mississippian. God willing, the fair will never be canceled again. God willing, we'll never have to encounter another pandemic again. But if we do, there's no place I'd rather be than right here in Mississippi. I want to personally thank every single one of you. I want to thank you for what you have done to help us get through the last year and a half. And let me say, one place that we have really shown the nation how to lead the way is in education. Yep, you heard me right. Mississippi has led the entire nation in education over the last year. While teachers in some other states kept kids chained to laptops or cell phones and pretended it was school, Mississippi insisted on in-person instruction. Other states said, we can't, but Mississippi teachers said, yes, we can. And they did. Their efforts are paying dividends. Mississippi was recently ranked first in the nation for 4th grade reading improvements over the last 3 years. Mississippi was recently ranked first in the nation in 4th grade math improvements over the last 3 years. Now, the Biden administration loves to throw around the term equity. Well, here in Mississippi, both black and white students from low-income homes have achieved higher scores than the national average in all 4 NAEP testing subjects. And when the pandemic hit, our teachers knew that we could not afford to give up that momentum. They knew that our kids had to get all the instruction we could give them. I will tell you, again, I have never been prouder to be a Mississippian. A year ago, I spent much of the summer working with our education and healthcare experts, trying to figure out how we could get our kids back in school. I spent almost every single weekday in July urging local school districts to get on board and make a plan as quickly as possible. What happened? Mississippi schools responded. And I believe that merit must be rewarded. That is why today I am calling for another pay raise for our teachers. They earned it in the pandemic, and they have proven that they are committed to moving our kids forward. Now, everybody that's here today that's taking the time to be with us knows that I'm a fiscal conservative. Spending tax money on new things is not my nature. But educational attainment is my priority. And it would be wrong for us not to demonstrate that we appreciate the Mississippi teachers and the fact that they outdid the rest of America during COVID. Now, the local media loves to tell you that we are last in teacher pay. Sometimes I think many in the local media just love to run Mississippi down. The fact is that claim is not accurate. Right now, Mississippi ranks 37th in teacher pay when adjusted for cost of living. That is not last. But it's also not good enough. Y'all, we can do better. So today, I am proposing an immediate $1,300 a year across the board teacher pay raise, followed by $1,000 per year in each of the next 2 fiscal years. If we are successful in getting this done, this additional $3,300 a year on top of the $1,000 we did this year, this pay raise will result in Mississippi going from 37th nationally to 21st and 4th in the Southeast United States. And it will help us attract the top-tier educators that our children deserve. And I believe that it will also make sure that any teacher who wants to be in Mississippi can afford to teach in Mississippi. Passing this teacher pay raise will be a priority for me in the coming legislative session, and I hope it will be a priority for you as well. And speaking of education, let's talk about the latest dumb idea coming from the East and West Coast, critical race theory. I swear, some of these Ivy League liberals are some of the dumbest smart people in the world. In what world are we living in? In what world are we living in where it's okay to teach children that they're born racist? In what world is it okay to teach children that they'll be judged by the color of their skin, not by the content of their character? That is not the education that we need for the next generation of America's leaders. But sadly, it is now the official position of the National Democrat Party. In Mississippi, our kids should be learning STEM education, not DEM education. They should be learning the truth about the United States, that we are blessed to live in the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And I am committed to ensuring that critical race theory is kept out of Mississippi schools. Additionally, I will once again be proposing in my executive budget recommendation that we appropriate funding towards a patriotic education fund that educates the next generation in the incredible accomplishments of the American way. Now, unfortunately, last session, the legislature decided not to spend the money for patriotic education. This session, let's work together to make sure that they do this time. Now, we also need to talk about another group of heroes during this pandemic, the job makers. In spite of a global recession, Mississippi's economy has thrived. Last year, during 2020, we saw $1.9 billion in new capital investment in our state. To put that in perspective, in the previous 10 years before I was governor, Mississippi averaged approximately $900 million per year. We did twice as good during 2020 than in the previous 10 years average, and we're going to do even better in the years to come. Now, let's talk about why we have been successful. The major reason is you, our workforce. You attracted that investment. You created those jobs. You really are second to none, and I'm committed to making sure our state invests back in you. My administration will continue to invest in workforce training so that all Mississippians have the skills that they need to succeed. Now, that economic growth was good for the private sector, but it was also pretty good for state government, too. Mississippi just ended our fiscal year having collected $1 billion more than was originally anticipated. This is because while the rest of the country shut down, we reopened. Unlike the states that were run by the Democrats, Mississippi was the first to reopen and one of the fastest to lift pandemic mandates. Now, I was proud to sign those orders to keep us open, but I didn't do the hard work. Nope. You know who did the hard work? You did. You did the hard work. You woke up. You went to your job. You provided for your family. And yes, you helped move our state ahead. And in my view, because of that, you should reap the rewards. You should keep more of your paycheck. You're the reason why we're in the great financial shape that we're in. And that's why I stand before you today and propose, once and for all, that we eliminate the state income tax in Mississippi. Now, there are some folks in the Capitol that are proposing that we swap the income tax for increases in sales taxes, that we swap the income tax for increases in agriculture taxes, or that we swap the income tax for increases in other taxes. I want to be clear. From a policy standpoint, I am absolutely opposed to taking less from you here and taking more from you here. I'm opposed to robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Under my plan, Peter and Paul are both going to have more money in their pockets. What we need is a lower tax burden, period. And I will insist on it, no matter who in the legislature tries to stand in the way. I'd like to take a moment to thank our healthcare workers, our healthcare providers, and to thank our brave men and women in blue. Unlike liberal states, here in Mississippi, we back the blue. If you see a man or woman in uniform today or in the coming days and weeks, just say thank you. I was out of town this weekend. I ran into a few at lunch, and I just walked up to them and said, look, I just want to thank you for your service. I cannot tell you the smiles that those two men had on their face when I did that. We need to say thank you to them because they deserve our support. Now, if the radical Democrats had their way, they would probably have law enforcement police the streets with squirt guns. But given their stance on the Second Amendment, they may even ban those. The left expects our law enforcement officers to be psychiatrists, social workers, lawyers, and even more. Now tell me, how do we expect our police officers to be all these things with less money? Newsflash to anyone listening, they can't. I want to be clear. My administration is committed to making sure our police have the tools that they need to keep you safe and to improve public safety. And speaking of the goal of public safety, we're taking steps to fight crime in our capital city. 2 weeks ago today, we launched a safety initiative that increased law enforcement presence and visibility, both on our state highways and interstates and in our Capitol Complex improvement district. Mississippians shouldn't have to cower because they're afraid for their safety. Crime in Jackson affects all of us across the state. A successful Mississippi must include a successful Jackson. We need a strong, safe capital city. I will tell you that this initiative is just our first step in making sure that we have that. And speaking of safety, Commissioner Kane and his team inherited an absolute crisis at the Department of Corrections. But they are doing the necessary work to significantly improve conditions in our prison system, both for our inmates and for our employees and our prison guards. Bob Anderson and his team at DHS have picked up the pieces of a broken agency to provide services to Mississippi families in need while working closely with federal authorities to safeguard taxpayers' money. Andrea Sanders and her team at CPS have been working day and night to focus that agency on the needs of those young kids that are in our state's foster care system. And the mental health lawsuit we inherited is nearing an end because we have gotten the state in substantial compliance. I mention those things simply for the following reason. As you can tell, even though many in our Mississippi press have only focused on COVID for the last year and a half, we have been hard at work doing the job that you elected me to do. Speaking of COVID, and because I know every question I get after this speech is going to be focused on that, let me say a word or two about where we find ourselves. Every government action that was taken last year was to protect the integrity of our healthcare system and to bridge the gap to the time when a vaccine was made available. President Trump's Operation Warp Speed delivered that miracle vaccine. And we did it in record time. 1.2 million Mississippians have chosen to get vaccinated. Others have chosen a different path. And I will always defend those individuals' rights to decide what is best for them and their families. Tuesday's change in the CDC mask guidance is foolish and it is harmful. It reeks of political panic so as to appear they are in control. It has nothing, let me say that again, it has nothing to do with rational science. In Mississippi, we believe in freedom. Thomas Jefferson once said, "The policy of the American government is to leave its citizens free, neither restraining them nor aiding them in their pursuits." In our state, we are a free people. It was Benjamin Franklin who said, "Freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature." In Mississippi, it is our belief in God that has gotten us through the last year and a half. And it is my belief in God that gives me great optimism for what is going to come for our great state. My friends, thank you for giving me this great honor to serve as your 65th governor. It is the honor of my life. Life sometimes throws us curveballs, and we've certainly seen a curveball or two in the last year and a half. But what you have done has made me proud. And I conclude once again by saying this. I've never, ever been prouder to be a Mississippian than I am today. Thank you all, and God bless.